Okay, man. All right. Well, thanks for having me. I know this is kind of out of the norm, and these presentations are better in person. So I apologize for the technical aspect of this, but I think moving forward in all of our lives, we're going to all have to be tech savvy and get around some of this stuff, especially in the air medical field. So I'm going to share my screen with you. If you can't see it, please let me know. I have my chat box pulled up. So if you have any questions, just type that question in there and we'll answer them as we go. At the very end, we'll also open it up for any other questions that you might have and feel free to ask whatever is on your mind. So, all right, let me share this with you real quick. Right there. Okay, if everybody can see this. So again, Jim Hyatt. I have been in the air medical industry for almost 20 years. And I started off, just kind of give you a little chronological order of how things evolved in my life and how I got to where I am at today. So I started out thinking I was going to do construction and architecture, and boy, I took my first EMT class and loved it and became a basic EMT volunteer in a small community EMS system, very similar to what you guys see around the San Luis Valley. And so I really enjoyed it, and it kind of sparked an interest in me, which I think for everybody here, you got to love what you do. You know, it's got to interest you or you won't last long. And that goes without saying in the air medical industry as well. You got to love what you're doing or it's kind of a short-lived career. So if you find something you want to do and you got a passion for it, you're lucky. That's what you're looking for. So this has been my passion since day one, and I evolved. Went to paramedic school. I spent 6 years on the ground running in the back of an ambulance as a paramedic in a very busy metro area. We usually would field somewhere between 25 to 30 calls a day, and so I got my experience there. I got to the point where I wanted to actually increase my knowledge a little more. So I went to nursing school. I graduated from nursing school. Because of my paramedic background, I was able to get into an emergency room position. And so I got into that. Spent a few years in the ER, decided I want to cross-train to ICU, which is the more critical patients. And so I cross-trained to ICU, and I spent the better part of my nursing career, my hospital nursing career, doing both. I worked a lot, picked up shifts, cross-training into ER, ICU, learning everything there was to know, or at least I thought there was to know, to prepare myself. Going back just a little bit, when I was running ground, we used to hand our patients off to flight crews all the time. And I knew the first time one of those helicopters landed at one of my scenes, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be on that helicopter, and in our case, we have both fixed wing and helicopter, but I wanted to fly. I wanted to take care of the sickest of the sick patients. So, so I started pursuing that. It took me 4 times applying, 3 times getting turned down. On the 4th time, I got a position. And it was out of state. I had to move, and I got that job, and I took advantage of it. Fortunately, I had a very understanding wife, and I shouldn't say had. I have an understanding wife. We've been married for 30 plus years, so she has been very understanding. And you have to have good family when you pursue this type of a career. It's a very, very rewarding, but it also is a very time-consuming job. But that being said, so the career in the air medical I've been doing for almost 20 years. I started off as a flight nurse, and for the vast majority of that is really what you do. You are a flight nurse. Some of the air medical, being a flight nurse is just one part of air medical. When we talk about air medical medicine, there are many things that comprise this. This is definitely one of those jobs where it's a team effort. You have your flight nurses, your flight paramedics, you have pilots that fly both the helicopter and the aircraft. You have your dispatchers. They're kind of the mother of the family, right? They're the glue. They keep us all doing what we should do and going where we need to go. We have our medical directors, who are physicians that give us the opportunity and the ability to do the kind of skills and practice the medicine that we practice. And then the administration part, and there is probably, I don't know, endless jobs underneath that administration title. I fall under that administration title now. My title is a clinical manager. And basically my responsibility now is I still get to fly. I still get to take care of patients on occasion, not as much as I really would like to, but I get to take care of patients. And I also assure that the clinicians on the front lines, the nurses and the paramedics, have all the tools that they need to take care of the patients, the equipment, have all the knowledge and the education that they need, the continuing education that they need to take care of the patients. So that's my job. But some of the other administrative jobs, I mean, if marketing is your thing, if business management is your thing, what else? You know, we have accounts receivable, accounts payable. You know, that we have insurance. I can't remember. They do insurance audits, but they are in-house. And there's all kinds of clerical jobs. So if your desire is to be in the air medical industry and you really want to help people, and you don't want to see the blood and guts and not be around sick people, there's lots of other opportunities to find a job in that. And we love having people that are really outgoing, really adventurous, love to learn, and are really reliable. Join our team. Just to give you a little background of kind of how we function. So Eagle Air Med is the primary aircraft and air medical industry in the San Luis Valley. So you've got a fixed wing that sits over in Del Norte, and then you've got a rotor wing, which is a helicopter that sits right on top of the hospital there in Alamosa, and another fixed wing that sits at the hangar at the airport in Alamosa. So we have 3 aircraft in the San Luis Valley. There are 4 medical providers at the Del Norte base and 4 pilots. There are 4 pilots and 4 medical providers that are strictly staffed on the helicopter. And then there are 4 medical providers and 4 pilots that staff the Alamosa fixed wing there at the airport. So they work, you know, our schedules are a little different than most. We work 7 days straight. Those are 24/7, and we are on call all 24 of those 7 days, all 24 hours of those 7 days, I should say. So, so that schedule, and some people look at that and go, wow, that's a lot, you know, but the nice thing is that you turn around every other week, you get off. So you are completely off to go do your mountain biking, your skiing, your hunting, your camping, your hiking, whatever you want to do. So a lot of people really, really enjoy that schedule. And a lot of our providers, if you guys know any of them, they're locals. They live right there in the community. They function in the community. Some of them actually worked at the hospital. Some still do work at the hospital on occasion. And so, you know, we really love it when local people come up through the ranks, get their education, are prepared for us to hire. Because honestly, when I do the interviews for these, I look for the local individuals that are applying, because it's so much nicer for the community to have you there. It's easier for us to schedule, etc. So we really like it when local people apply. So don't ever think that, oh, you know, I've only got, you know, the minimum, and we'll talk about kind of the minimum experience you need to do this job, but I've only got the minimum. I'm not going to get the job because somebody else has 5 more years of experience. Nope. If we like you and you got a desire to learn and you know, you fit the mold that we try and make at Eagle Air Med, yeah, you're gonna be one of our serious considerations. So this little slide here, so this is basically the footprint or the service area for Eagle Air Med. So if you can see this, it goes up into Rosebud, South Dakota. That's kind of our outlying base. I go up there about twice a quarter. Beautiful country up there, right in the Black Hills, sits up there by, well, Rosebud sits right on the reservation up there. And if you're familiar with the Black Hills, Buffalo, beautiful country. And then we've got Del Norte and Alamosa right here, Farmington, New Mexico, Gallup, New Mexico, Chinle, Arizona, Kayenta, Arizona, and Blanding, Utah. And we are always building out. So since I started this job 2 years ago, we've added Farmington, Blanding, and the new rotor wing in Alamosa, and considering adding more. So we're always hiring. This NAMTA over here is our accreditation. So we can't fly without a national accreditation. Basically what that means is that we have a governing body over us that comes in and does inspections. Every 3 years we get our renewal. We just barely completed it last month with NAMTA, and they come in and they inspect our safety stuff. So making sure we have, you know, we're doing the safe things. They make sure that our crews are being trained. We have to keep records of all of this. They make sure that we are doing everything that we need to do to keep our patients and our crews safe. And so when they put their stamp of approval on us, that means we're good to go. We can still fly. And believe me, we do everything we can do to make sure that we're compliant with our NAMTA certification so that we can do that. And then this statement down below, this is our mission statement. So we provide safe, compassionate, and efficient air medical transportation. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, the Eagle Air Med. Now, Eagle is a part of a bigger corporation called Guardian Flight, and this is their footprint. So we have bases all over the place. If you can see here, clear up into, you know, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Montana. We have bases all over Hawaii. We have bases all over Alaska. I've had the privilege of flying in all of these areas, even up into the North Dakotas in the middle of winter, which is not my favorite place to be. But you can see we have a pretty big footprint. And then Guardian Flight is actually a subsidiary company of a bigger company called GMR, Global Medical Response. We basically have bases in every single state in the United States, and they have an international flight company. So if somebody gets sick across, you know, maybe you're on vacation in Italy and you get sick, they can go over there and get them and bring them back. So if you got a desire to fly and be in the air medical industry, there is ample opportunity to do that and get involved. Okay, let's see. See, a couple of you are thinking about the medical field. Well, maybe I'll convince all of you by the time we're done, because we need really good people in this field. So let's talk a little bit about each individual kind of team player as we look at this. So the flight nurse, which is what I am, right? And I'm still a flight nurse. Even though I'm in the administrative portion of it, I still practice as a flight nurse. So you got to graduate from high school, okay? You get the best grades you can. And that just sets you up for you know, success down the road, especially when you get into, and I would say probably any field, any career that's going to give you, you know, a decent income and provide for your family. It's going to be fairly competitive, right? There's a lot of people out there in the world, and some of the more sought after jobs are very, very competitive. So you want to make sure that you have the highest GPA. You can get high scores on your ACT or your SAT. If you're coming into high school now, or you're getting ready to take your ACT or SAT, take it serious. And I can speak from experience. Boy, when I took my ACT, it wasn't really that big of a deal back when I took it, and I really didn't make it a big deal, and I wished I would have. So make sure that you take these serious and you get the best grades you can possibly get. And then apply to a university approved nursing program. You guys have them right there in the San Luis Valley. and they're good programs. We've gotten two of our nurses that fly for us out of the Alamosa area came right out of school there in Alamosa. So it's awesome. And we love those guys. They're very, very good providers. The 2 years of prep classes, I don't know if any of you are able to take some anatomy and physiology, chemistry, physics, math, English. All these things apply. You know, there were many times in school when I thought to myself, geez, I'll never use this again. Why do I have to know this? You guys have all asked that question, I'm sure, because I asked it a million times. But as I got into the career, as I got into this career, it was very evident why I needed to learn that stuff and know. You look at English and you think, well, how does English apply to a medical career? Man, I communicate on a daily basis with my peers, with my coworkers, with my bosses, with the people that I actually am over and in charge of. I literally communicate on a daily basis with them via email, via whatever it is. So I need to learn how to spell, and I need to learn how to punctuate, and I need to learn how to kind of converse with people. It's kind of important. You know, even the things that you might think don't apply, apply. Chemistry, a big one in the medical field. We use drugs. We use IV fluids. If you've ever seen the IV bags, we use the IV fluids. That's somebody's chemistry experiment right there in a nutshell. There's a lot of stuff in those that come right off of that chemistry chart, right? And so it's important that you be a well-rounded individual in a career like this. And so taking some of these classes that, you know, take a chorus class, take a PE class, take a pottery class, you know, things like that will just make you a well-rounded individual. The core classes in these are the ones you really want to focus on and get the real good grades in. Bachelor's of Science in Nursing. So once you get into that nursing program, there's either a 2 or a 4 year. You can get your associate degree in nursing, which we accept as well, and a bachelor's, which is a 4 year. If you want to go on to like get your master's, you'll have to have a bachelor's. But if you're just interested in working as a nurse in a hospital, or most administrative positions require a bachelor's. So my daughter actually graduated 3 years ago. I encouraged her to get her bachelor's just for that reason. So it's a lot harder to go back to school than it is to finish, if you understand where I'm coming from there. And then the nurses, in order to be considered for an air medical job, have to have 5 years of critical care and or emergency room. So, and the reason for that is you're exposed that 5 years. It usually takes about 3 to 4 years of exposure to look at that and see, you know, get all the skills down. And then maybe a year after that to really polish those skills. And so it was one of those things that we look at when people have their critical care or their emergency room. It also matters kind of what hospital. Some of the bigger hospitals, it doesn't matter. When we hire people, we look for people with experience. That experience doesn't necessarily mean years. For example, if you're working in a big hospital, you have a lot of what we call ancillary staff or help, right? You have respiratory therapists, you have people that do your EKGs or the people that do, you know, take the pictures of your heart, start IVs, draw blood, etc. If you're working at a small rural hospital and you're the nurse in that emergency room in that critical care area, you do all of that. And so sometimes when we hire, we look and see where they've actually worked. And some of that is weighed a little bit differently because that nurse in that small rural facility has had, you know, lots and lots of hands-on experience, which is what we love. And so don't ever think that you've got to go to Denver, you know, and be in one of those giant trauma centers, you know, to actually get a flight job or a good, solid medical job. Because a lot of the training and a lot of the skills that you get will be at some of these smaller rural facilities. There's a question on here. Oh, everybody's starting to, English, history, great subjects to focus on. I love it. You guys are smart. Flight paramedics, they're a different animal, right? I was a paramedic at one point in time. Again, you got to graduate from high school. You want to get the best grade you can, score high on your ACTs, SATs, and then there's university programs. And generally, and I know there's a paramedic program right there in the San Luis Valley as well. You guys are really fortunate to have these programs there. So you don't have to really go into a big city to get certified to be a paramedic. You will have to get your basic. So if you ever have a basic EMT course that's offered, for you that are interested in the nursing program, CNAs are awesome. To be real honest with you, CNAs do the vast majority of the work in the hospital. Nurses pass drugs and do all the charting, but the CNAs do all the work. So, but it's a good learning experience, and it's kind of laying the groundwork for when you go. Paramedics, the EMT basics, those are the ones, basically you just learn how to provide first aid, open airways, do CPR, that kind of thing. But it lays the groundwork for a good paramedic if you get a good education there. So we also require 5 years of ground transport, and that we look at as far as like if they're in a busy area. If they're in an area where they get 4 or 5 calls a day, probably, and they've worked 5 years, probably not going to get that type of experience unless you're super busy and you have 20 to 25 calls a day. So the volume is what counts on this one. The pilots, we have some excellent pilots. Again, this is kind of the progression. You see that no matter what you do, you have to graduate from high school and you have to get the best grades you possibly can. And I can tell you that it's worth the effort to get those grades. It is absolutely worth it. Might seem kind of like a pain in the butt right now, but it is very much worth the effort going down the road. These guys too also have to have take the ACT or the SAT. They have to graduate from an FAA or a Federal Aviation Administration. That's a federal government program, approved flight program. So they have to be certified. They have to get their pilot's license. But not only do they have to get their pilot's license, these guys, before we hire them, have to have a minimum of 5,000 hours of flight experience. So as a medical crew, when I climb on a plane and I know my pilot's got 5,000 hours, I feel safe, right? I know he's flown. I know he's probably seen a lot of problems. He's seen, issues over the time. I think it's one of those things that you just kind of, you appreciate once you start flying how many hours these guys. We have a lot of public trained, and by public trained I mean they go to like a public school to be trained and get their pilot's license. We also have a lot of military pilots, so they've gone in, they've flown. One of the pilots that I flew with on a helicopter flew one of those big Chinooks, the big twin bladed things that you can drive a tank up in. Those things are huge. And he was one of those. I also had one that flew the little Cobras. Those are the little fighter helicopters. And so, there's a wide variety, but these pilots are very, very experienced, especially once they hit the air medical industry, because we require that. They also have to be certified in the current aircraft platform. What that means is there's lots of different airplanes out there, right? I mean, we at Eagle, we have what we call the Pilatus, which is a PC-12. And then we also have a C-90, which is a King Air. And we also have a C-200. Each one of those aircraft have a little bit different configurations, and these pilots have to be certified in that particular aircraft. Helicopters are the same way. Different helicopters require different certificates. So if you see a pilot and they're in an aircraft, they are specifically trained for that aircraft. The other part of our team is air medical dispatch. Again, these are like the moms of our group. They're the glue, keeps together. They graduate from an approved dispatch program. At Eagle, or Guardian Flight, I should say, because Guardian Flight, they're all Guardian employees. They dispatch for all of our companies. We do our own in-house training, so on-the-job training. for the air medical side. You don't necessarily, you can come right out of high school if you want to be a dispatcher and go right into training. It usually takes about 6 months of straight training. And then you have to have some advanced certifications for dispatchers. And it includes FAA regulations, weather, flight following, et cetera. These dispatchers we contact on a daily basis. They're the ones that call us in the middle of the night and say, hey, you guys need to go fly here to pick up this patient and take them to here. Not only do they do that, that's not just their job. They look at aircraft that they've got crossing. They do what they call flight following, which is they follow our aircraft. As soon as our aircraft spin up or the motors go on, a beacon goes on and they can track us through the air. They have a great big, here in South Jordan where I live, in South Jordan, Utah, they have a big wall, and it's got, I don't know how big those screens are, but it's probably a 100-foot by 30-foot wall, and it's divided up into multiple screens, and they can follow aircraft depending on which program is out, like Eagle Air Med or Hawaii Life Flight or Alaska, Guardian Alaska. They can follow those on those screens. And so they have eyes on you. As soon as you lift, they have eyes on you. And as soon as you land, they have eyes that you're down, and you contact them and let them know you're down. They have certain protocols that they have to know by heart. And thank goodness they do, because they watch out for our safety. If, for example, we are 10 minutes to 15 minutes overdue, they will call us. If they can't call us, they activate a beacon. If they can't activate that beacon, then they start calling local law enforcement and medical to come look for us. And so, so there's a lot of things that these dispatchers do, and they have to learn. And boy, I'll tell you, I get to be, you know, really good friends with the dispatchers, because they're the ones that call you in the middle of the night. And if you're not good friends with them, they can either be really ornery, or, you know, they can send you on some really long flights. So every chance I get, I used to take them donuts into South Jordan. They really like that. Those big batches of licorice, they really like that. So anyway, the air medical dispatch, that's another opportunity for you to be part of our team. Maintenance. If any of you guys are mechanically sound out there, and you love to work on things and build things, and, you know, if you got these hopped up cars you're working on at home and doing that kind of thing, this is probably a good opportunity for you. We do on-the-job training. All of our aircraft are actually serviced for Eagle Air Med, are serviced in Blanding, Utah. We have a giant hangar there. In fact, the next picture will actually show you that. They're serviced there, and they have an apprentice program. And in fact, I'll bet if I walked in there tomorrow, which I am going to walk in there tomorrow, there's probably, I would say, 5 or 6 apprentice people in there right out of high school, and they're taking them right through that program. Once they get done, it's called an A&P. It's an airframe and power plant license, and they are certified to work on any part of that aircraft once they get that. We really rely on these guys. These guys are a big part of our team, because they service our aircraft. Each airplane, each helicopter has to go in for a 6-month checkup, kind of like going to the doctor. And then every year, they do what they call a complete teardown of that aircraft. They pull motors off, they pull wings off, they pull flaps, they pull everything out. They replace parts that maybe don't even need to be replaced, but they're on a schedule, so they get replaced anyway. And then they keep our planes up and running. The last thing you want, especially in a helicopter, is for you to have something go wrong. In an airplane, you can glide to a certain point. A helicopter, that's just like a giant paperweight. If that thing quits spinning up top, it's a giant paperweight. So we really rely on this aircraft maintenance to help us out and keep us safe. I talked to Chris, who's over our maintenance department. He said approximately 2 years of the apprenticeship and the learning, and before you can apply and take your A&P license test. And so they train you for 2 years. He said if their apprenticeship has saved people about $30,000 out of pocket to go through those and get those A&P. So they really do a nice service for that. It's open to anybody. You just have to apply. If there's an opening there, they will bump you in and get you in the apprenticeship program. So it's an awesome thing. They've been doing that for about 5 years now, and it's really, really paid off. So here is our hangar, a picture of the hangar that's in Blanding. You can see there's 2 aircraft. That back here on this back side to the right of the flag, there's 2 more aircraft back there. We keep the ones in the back that are up for their, long haul maintenance, and then these for their tune-ups or anything that needs to be done that's wrong. If I had a picture out the front of this hangar, which is this big hangar door, there's probably 4 or 5 more aircraft sitting out there. And little things that they can do, when they can leave them outside. So becoming an air medical provider, talked about this, 5 years critical care, 5 years of ground. You have to be a good communicator, skilled in all aspects of medicine. And by that, I mean, you got to be able to, again, you got to be able to start IVs, you got to be able to, accurately read and labels, I mean, it's really, really important. Emergency room experience preferred, EMS experience preferred. A lot of our nurses are dual trained, like myself. I have a paramedic license as well as a nursing license. A lot of our nurses have gone through the EMT programs, and that's we look at that and we say, hey, they understand the ground aspect, because if you're flying in one of these helicopters that you see pictured here, these are going to be utilized for scene calls. This is a scene call, okay? So we do, though I know those look scary, but believe it or not, both guys in that truck survived. We flew both of them. So, but your personal skills, these are some of the things I think we kind of overlook, right? You got to be able to perform under pressure. Critical thinking is a must. You got to be able to take a step back and look and say, okay, this is a certain situation. This is how I'm going to deal with it.
We can't hear nothing.
Sorry, guys, are you still there? The adaptability and critical thinking. This is a picture of one of our patients, right? There is a patient in there somewhere. You got to be able to work all of them. Let me pull up that chat box too. Okay, so the ability, this is that picture of that patient that's in there. You can't tell there's a patient in there except for maybe his big toe right there. So you got to be able to work in combined spaces. This is basically our office right here. We have medical supplies in the background. This is a helicopter, kind of cool. Our patients are right there. We get real up close and personal. But if you can think communication, if you look at this picture, I've got a mic here, there's stuff here, there's cords here, there's a cord here. My pilot and my partner have the same helmet on, and we can communicate back and forth. The patient actually has a set of headphones on that we can communicate with them as well, because it's not very quiet inside that helicopter. We respond on car accidents. We land wherever, especially in a helicopter. If you're on scene, we don't usually use the fixed wings for scene calls. It's mostly helicopters for scene calls. So this is an air ambulance. So you have the ground ambulance here, the air ambulance here. We do the same things. Everything that you have in an ER is sitting inside this helicopter and in our bag systems. And I put this picture in here on purpose because I want you guys to understand how cool it is to shut an entire interstate down for you to land. I mean, that's like the red carpet at the Oscars, right? They close the whole freeway down and we land right in the middle of it and pick up our patient. And that's always been, I get giddy when I'm flying in on a scene call like that. I really enjoy that. Our interfacility transfers. So let's say you know, Del Norte has a Rio Grande hospital there has a patient that they really can't, has exceeded their limit of caring for that patient. That's where we come in. We load that patient up in the ambulance, we take them over to the aircraft, and we fly them somewhere, wherever they want us to fly to. We just go wherever they tell us to go. And so we'll take that patient inside this. This is one of our C-90s that we fly. And so our interfacility transfers are the biggest majority of the flights that we take. I would say maybe 20%, 20 to 25% are scene calls. The rest are interfacility transfers to bigger facilities. We do search and assist. These are some of my other favorite calls. I love helping search and rescue out. Gives me a chance to fly over the mountains, see the pretty country. This time of year in Colorado is amazing. I can't even imagine flying a helicopter over there. And so we love helping search and rescue. I've been out on a number of calls where I've been out all night with a backpack on, staying with a patient and taking care of them until we can get them down off the mountain, because a lot of places you can't land a helicopter. I've seen some people get into some really sticky situations. Again, here's the inside of a helicopter. You can see kind of the cramped quarters. Patient sits over here, and then this is our pilot up here on the left-hand side, and all of our equipment. IV pumps, monitors, a vent sits below this. Behind the pilot seat is a bunch of bags that we carry stuff in. And then, you know, those cool helmets with the shades, right? The built-in shades. I always tell people, you're never as cool as you are the first day you put on that flight suit cool, right? One of the things that I think people get a little disenchanted with or a little confused with is once you get done with your education, like say you graduate from nursing school, you graduate from paramedic school, the thing that I think catches people off guard is that's not the end of your education. So in our industry, and whether you work in a hospital or whether you work in a helicopter or an airplane, there is constant education. When we're on duty, we do an hour's worth of education every day, whether that's podcasts, articles, hands-on training like you see Paul doing here. We do our skills, and they really make a big difference, right? So don't ever think that once you graduate that's it, you're done. Whew, I've taken my last test, right? Because that couldn't be further from the truth. You still educate. The difference is by the time you hit this stage, this is your passion. You really have a desire to learn everything there is about this industry and about how it works. And so there is a difference. Once you find what you love, and this, I can attest to this, right? When I first got into college, I went on a baseball scholarship. I played baseball. I really didn't care about getting educated. I thought I was going to play baseball the rest of my life. Boy, was I wrong. So I didn't really apply myself like I could have. And basically, once I found the medical industry that I really wanted, school was so much easier. I was a straight A student after that. And it was because I loved what I was doing, and I was really, really interested, really wanted to work at it. This slide here with Paul, we do surgical trachs. There are advanced skills when you get into the flight industry that you don't do at a hospital and you don't do on a ground ambulance, but you do them in the air. And these advanced skills literally save lives. This skill right here, which is called a surgical crike, that's where they put a tube in your neck because your airway is blocked for some reason. This is one of those skills where you can save a life. In the 20 years I've flown, I've only had to do that twice in 20 years. And so this is not a skill that you go out there and think, oh, I really want to do this. This is one of those that if you need it, it's there, but you really want to try and avoid it if possible. So kind of cool though. I mean, to be able to save a life, there's not many people that can say that. And it's awesome. We also do survival training. Survival training becomes really important. If you look around, You guys in the San Luis Valley, you got mountains. You got high mountains. You got several 14ers there. There's probably your search and rescue crews there are, I'm sure, really, really busy in the summer and even in the wintertime with snowmobilers. But we do survival training for ourselves. And the reason for that is if we have to sit down on a mountain somewhere in the middle of winter, or we have a mechanical issue, we've got to be able to survive. If we crash, which is not likely, but it's possible, right? You're in an aircraft, it's always possible. We need to know what to do. We carry a survival bag in every aircraft that has sleeping bags for each one of us. This slide here, we're teaching how to start fires with flint and steel. We have to pass off and certify with all this stuff. A lot of us carry our own personal survival kits on us. You know, it's one of those things that's part of the job. It is actually required to maintain our you remember the NAMTA certification that we talked about? So anyway, yeah, it's great. It's great. Small work environments, you can see they're really small. These are another some pictures of our equipment that we have loaded up when we're transporting patients. It's very complex, and you got to practice with it. And basically, being in the flight industry, and I can't stress this enough, is a team effort. You know, when we go back and we look at all the nurses, the medics, the dispatchers, the mechanics, the pilots, everybody that sets us up for success, including myself and my management partner, who's Bill Hetzel. He's the program director for Eagle Air Med. We all work as a team to make sure the one goal, the end goal in mind, is to take care of our patients the absolute best we can. And, you know, if we can do that, at the end of the day, we all go home feeling safe and feeling very satisfied with our job. And I think that's the most important thing. One of the interview questions that I ask people when they come on board is what do you value the most in a job? And what's the most important thing that you would look at in a job before you took it? You know, what do you value the most in a job? And you'd be surprised at some of the answers I get, but a lot of it is job satisfaction. You know, I want to feel like I'm being, you know, appreciated for what I do and that what I'm doing matters. In the medical industry, no matter whether you get your nursing degree, your paramedic degree, especially in the air medical, whether you're a pilot, whether you're a mechanic, what you do matters. And I will tell you this, whatever you do, just be the best at it. Don't sell yourself short, just be the very best at it. That's about it for me, guys. Do you guys have any questions? I'm looking at the chat thing.